Hi all, and thanks for being with me. I'm going to talk a little bit about another issue that's come up today in relation to dating apps. But this is a little bit broader than just that as far as I'm concerned. This is about using the internet, whether that be Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, with images of children. Now, from the very beginning, I have objected to the use of children. Now, I've had a lot of clients in the past who just use Facebook to tell the story about who they are and what's happening in their family and all that sort of stuff. And I get it. It is for some people really important to be able to tell that story, and that story often involves their children. Now, I've objected to it for a number of reasons. Number one is I thought that primarily by projecting children onto your Facebook page or Instagram page or TikTok or whatever, that you are allowing pedophiles to know who you are, that you have children, and if you're in a vulnerable situation in particular, to target you. Now I've thought of this years ago. This is not a new thought for me. However, recently warnings have come out about how dangerous this idea is. I have a family member, in fact, who had his sister come around to his place to visit him and to play with their child. Their child is only 8 months old or so, and that was a great environment. They thoroughly enjoyed that time, but the sister did take a picture of her and the baby and put it on Facebook. And his objection to that, which is one I agree with, is that this child cannot consent about having their picture placed on Facebook or Instagram or wherever it might be. And so that's another issue. Children do not have the ability to be able to consent to their photograph being placed in any of these environments. So he politely asked his sister, to take it down, not do it again, whatever. But it is an important thing for us to remember is that every time we put up a picture of a child, there's some crazy pedophile out there who may look at that picture, see who you are, think of you as being vulnerable. For example, if you're a single mum, for example, and you're in a low socioeconomic background and you make some comments about struggling to find food or pay your rent or whatever, then that opens the door for some crazy pedophilically minded individual to target you. So for me, this is a warning that we all must be mindful of. So I've got his. So I'll just have a look. So the ABC have reported on this, and I'll bring this up. And it's 1 in 8 Australians on. Now this is talking about dating apps, but I'm going just a little bit further than that and saying this is about social media in general. So my warning is much more general than just dating apps. And I can see how people would use dating apps as a means of stalking people. They've been asked to facilitate child sexual exploitation and abuse. This is what the survey says. Research shows 1 in 8 Australians on dating apps have received a request to facilitate child sexual exploitation or abuse. First Nations people, young Australians and those with long-term illness or disability were all more likely to be targeted by predators, but men and women were targeted equally. Dating apps have introduced extra safety features and so on in recent years, but researchers say there's more to be done, so clearly they're not proficient enough. Predators are targeting children via their parents on dating apps, and it's leading some Australian parents to think twice about what they share with their online matches, and I couldn't agree more. We all need to be a little bit more mindful of what it is that we're sharing, how it is that we're sharing, and the impact that sharing that stuff may have on you and your children. Now, if you've got photographs of your kids at school, for example, and people can see the school at which these children are attending, and they know their names, they are just as likely to turn up to that school and say, I know your mum and your dad. They've asked me to come and pick you up, and they whisk these kids away. So you've got to be really, really careful. So I just wanted to highlight that point. And then I just wanted to show you the news item, which kind of explains this in further details. So bear with me while you watch this.
Back to ABC News, I'm Ros Childs. An alarming number of Australian parents are being targeted by child predators on dating apps, according to a report out today. The Australian Institute of Criminology surveyed 10,000 dating app users and found that 1 in 8 of them had received a request to facilitate child sexual exploitation or abuse. National technology reporter Angela Pierre is following the story.
What the Australian Institute of Criminology did was ask those 10,000 Australians whether they had received one or more of about 5 different requests while they were using a dating app or with someone who they met on that dating app. So they asked Australians if they'd received a request for images of either their child or a child in their life, also requests for images of a sexual nature of that child, a request to meet those children or the child before it was appropriate to do so, requests for information of a sexual nature about those children, and then in extreme cases an offer of payment for photos or videos or live streams of those children. So yeah, it's incredibly dark stuff. You might have noticed the first item on that list, a request for photos of children. I mean, you can imagine that there are innocent, motives in some cases for asking for that, or at least you can imagine an innocent, innocuous scenario. But what the researchers found that most of the time that wasn't actually the case. So about half of the people who had been asked for an image also reported being pressured to provide sexual images of children. 69% reported being asked questions of a sexual nature about the children, and in 63% of cases where someone had already been asked for an image, they were then offered payment for photos or videos or live streams of the children. So yeah, it's rarely innocent, and more often sinister is what this report found.
And the survey also...
And I think we need to be mindful of all of those things that she mentioned, and that is primarily, even though this is about dating apps, it does apply for all social media. So I'm simply asking you to be mindful. Do not post. Really, at the end of the day, by posting pictures of your kids, you're putting yourself and them at risk. I understand the reasons why people do it. It's all very innocent. It all seems to be appropriate, but be wary doing that, and particularly, if they're unable to consent to it as well, they have a right to be able to say what's get posted and what doesn't. So be mindful of all of that. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. It is horrific, I think, to think that potentially it is likely that you'll be targeted. The actual percentages, 65% of the 10,000 people, which is 6,500 people that they surveyed, were victims, if you like, of people accessing those apps and asking them those terrible questions about whether or not they could send more photos, whether they would send then, explicit photos of nude children or whatever. So just be wary. I guess that's all that I'm saying. And if you wish for me to have more comments of this nature, which I'm more than happy to do, please let me know in the comment section below, and also subscribe to my channel. In the meantime, take care, look after yourselves, and more importantly, keep you and your family and your children safe.